Hello everybody, this is Max Farrell from Dex Effects Markets, and this is the Dex Atomic System. In this lesson, we're going to talk about what is the Dex Atomic, the three parts of your pathway. Now, the proverb, all roads lead to Rome, was used to state that all paths leads to the center, basically, right? And that there's multiple ways to get to your objective. In our case here at Dex, we created a mentality that you need for multiple pathways to lead you to your portfolio destination. Now, this portfolio destination can be many different things, but we're going to talk about just some real simple overview looks at what we refer to as your destination for your portfolio. And of course, what your reoccurring monthly idea of success is and all that kind of stuff. The cool thing is that you can learn to do this even without our tools here. So this is not just a sales video kind of mentality to where I'm here for you to buy our system. I generally want you to use other programs and other systems to get to your idea of success. But some of the most consistent things that I have found are the stuff that we have built. Why? Because I trust them. And so if I trust them and I use them to build my portfolio, you can do the same. But we're going to have to earn your trust in a way so you can see that. Okay. About success, let's talk about that. What is success? Really, is it a term of money, a destination, like, all right, I live in the Maldives, or is it an achievable goal? Okay, I made $100,000. Is it a mentality? I'm good and pure and I live a good lifestyle. Or is it all the above? Is it a hybrid of one or two of those factors? Your idea of success really comes down to, we can't tell you what that is. I can tell you what mine is, but I can't tell you what yours is. You're going to have to relay that to me. I think that's one thing I really like about the Dex Atomic process is that we'll find that out. We'll help you find that. And sometimes you don't know what that idea is, but you need to know a few things before you can move on. And it's where people get stuck at. They don't really know what their idea of success was. How can they actually pinpoint a goal? You can't. Oh, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, when? Tomorrow. Well, I'm sorry, it's not attainable, right? So you need to know a few things before you can move on. Your goal of what you want your financial gain to be. And let's compress this down into, I'd say, per month, right? Most of us live week to week or every 2 weeks or a paycheck or what have you. But I want you to start thinking of your gain, your goals, achievable for helping you get to your idea of success to be obtained within 1 month. Okay, or a certain amount of months. Put it in a 30-day period. And it's the one thing that I can help you get to, because if you try to make it on a daily basis, you're too close to it. You're looking at a painting 1 inch away. You won't see the entire beauty. I'm not saying stand across the street and look at the painting. I'm saying stand at least 4 or 5 feet back to have a really good look at it, right? And that's about a month time period. So we're going to talk about that monthly period. Your time that you have to dedicate to your learning process is important as well. So think of it like this. Any good person who wants to be a golfer, professional golfer, they got to do a lot of practice. They say 10,000 hours makes a master. Well, in this particular case, you're going to need to put some time in to either learn the process, okay, of course, and also doing the process. Remember, that's two different things. Learning and training are two different things. I can learn a lot of stuff on YouTube about swinging a golf club. But the moment I go to the course and start swinging the golf club, that's what it really comes down to as well. Now, the money you have dedicated to be able to learn that process, whether or not you're paying for lessons or you're doing stuff on free, if it's free, you kind of get what you pay for when you look for free advice kind of stuff. But I spend money on learning the systems from people that have done them. Right? So keep that in mind. You're looking to spend your money and dedicate your money to that process. The time you have dedicated to doing, like we talked about, learning that solution and training with it is important too. And that's going to take you time, and time is money, as they say. And the money you have dedicated to investing into the process, the last little crux of this whole thing about being successful, is knowing how much money you have to start with to be able to earn that success. Success will never come to the person yelling at the front door. It will always be to that person who opens the door, walks through it, builds the house behind it, and does everything they need to do. So you're going to have to know that it does take time, it does take money to invest. If you have neither of these, I have bad news for you. If you have no money and you have no time, then you will not be able to get to your idea of success without something else happening. You can't win the lottery if you don't play it. Okay. unless $1 million falls from the sky and lands in your lap, you're going to be hard pressed to become and reach your goals of being successful. Now, if your idea of success is living a very simple life and very simple means and not have a lot of bills and have all that stuff, that's great too. You might be a success already. My idea of success really, fortunately enough, I've realized a long time ago that my idea of success is actually helping other people gain their idea of success. So that's really unusual that you watching this video right now, you make me successful, right? And my idea of success within my goals is to be independent, right? That I build the things that I sell and I work the things that I build. And in that, my business is a success. I work from home. Check mark off. It took me I've been working at home now for almost 11 years. 11 years now I've been working from home. And let me tell you, when I started, I was working 16 hours a day to make a good business. Now I've met another goal of working between 4 and 8 hours a day, which is achievable. My other idea of success on financial gain is to make between $6,000 and $7,000, maybe even $8,000, but a good obtainable number for me is what I need every month. It's about $6,000. When I say need, it's not what I want, it's what I need. So if everything else were to fail, my wife has a job and I have other businesses that I run. If all that were to fail, can this support me? And that's the number I need to make every month to support my current and living lifestyle. Okay. When I originally started, I didn't have a lot of money to invest. A lot of my time was put in. But the original investment of about $10,000 stands to reason that that's what I started my businesses with. So my idea of success is to be able to start something with about $10,000, up to $10,000, and be able to and reach my goals. So let's get down to it. The Dex Atomic itself is made up of a mentality that has 3 parts in it, 3 pathways, if you will, to achieve this idea of success. Now, there's a little jinx on words here. There is short-term, medium-term, and long-term. And most people in the industry of trading or investing, if you will, say short-term yields is something that'll come to you really quickly. And this is sort of true with our system. But the idea of the short-term goal, medium-term goal, and the long-term goal is not about a number that increases in value with each one. Each of these can be done individually and in order, or all together, depending on the questions that have to be answered from this. But I want you to keep these terms in mind. Before we go on, we want to talk about other systems than ours, okay? Not just about our system, because I don't want you to think that I brought you here just so you can listen to me talk about how great our tools are. Our tools are great. Trust me, they're really, really good. But I want you to see that there's other ways to remember, all roads lead to Rome. I want you to know that there's other ways that you can actually get to that process of getting to these goals. And it's not just about ours. Now, one thing you have to know before you move on is that before you get into finding another system, if I mention something out there, you gotta be clear that you have to have consistency with that, and that you have to have been able to see that consistency, okay? That in order to meet your goals regularly, you have to find the systems and programs that work. But unfortunately, there's a lot of those systems that do work require a lot more risk. And so you got to balance that for yourself, okay? We will talk about them in the lessons that'll be coming, but not entirely in this lesson. Now, the short-term yields is the idea in our Dex Atomic system that can deliver your monthly goal reoccurring in a short term. Now, what I mean by that is, like, remember how I said I needed $6,000 to be able to make my idea of success happen? What that means for me is that within about 30 to 60 days, okay, which is relatively a short term, I can be delivering my $6,000 to $8,000, my $6,000 a month, if I have about $4,000 to $6,000 in my account. Okay, so the monthly goal reoccurring can happen, but it's going to take time, and it's usually relative to you have to invest the same amount that you're looking to get in that process. And that would tell me that that's about 100% return, right? And that's true. The idea of what we're about to show you in day trading, in gambling, in businesses that yield that daily or monthly income, even in our own TNT strategy system, this can happen. Now, The time for this is usually between 30 to 60 days. Some people can even stretch to 90, depending on how much time and effort and money you have to actually put into that. But the short term is not actually a number of, it'll take 37 and a half days. It's relative to the amount of money you have to invest, the time you have to invest, the knowledge you have of each. In day trading, you're going to need to know a lot about the stocks you're trading, their history, what they're doing. So there's a lot of footwork to do. In gambling, whether or not you think so, is it gambling to go? And I'm not talking about slot machines just going and putting a bunch of quarters in a machine. Or that could be it. If you got a system, tap 3 times on the side or something. I don't know. But if you're playing cards, if you're doing something else, or you're sport betting or off-track betting, you're going to have to do work and knowledge of that market and of that product you're doing. Whether or not you're playing blackjack, you're going to have to practice and get better. You're poker, you got to understand all the rules and terminologies. There's a lot to it. Even in businesses that yield a daily or monthly income, you're never going to find anything that's turnkey with no money on, right? So you're going to either have to put money in to get a turnkey business, or you're going to have to build it up, which takes time and energy. Okay, our TNT strategy system, and learning how to trade with Nadex, which is North American Derivative Exchange, or even using systems to trade on our Forex platforms, it takes time as well. And just like anything else, you're going to have to take that time. Now, that time is relatively short to the mainstream of things, but it can happen in a short period of time. And because it can happen in this relatively short period of time, that's where we get this phrase, short-term yield. Now, there are some factors, before I go into the other ones, there are some factors that basically have to remain true. All systems need consistency, right? We talked about that a little bit. And though each different type of factor that we have, you might need a little bit more or less of each of these factors to make it successful, even more successful. So time, of course, the time to learn and train. Money, the amount that you have to invest or learn the process, right? Now, that's 2 types of investments. Money investment in learning, and money investments to actually trade with or gamble with or put into the day trading stocks are 2 different mentalities. One can be conceived as an ROI, return on investment, while the other is sort of a gray area, right? Like if I go to school, yes, I do want to be able to return and pay my student loans and do all that stuff. But if I go to a course on cooking tomorrow and I'm going to be a chef, am I constantly worried about, I spent $197 to go to that class? I need to go out and cook 197 meals at $1 a piece. And do I start adding that into the ROI? And some people don't. So I'm going to give you a word of warning. Anything you go and learn, treat the learning experiences as a product value, right? That, like, if you go to a restaurant and you eat a cheeseburger, you don't say that $2.50 that I just spent for that cheeseburger, that's probably a pretty really bad number for a cheeseburger, should yield me, I should be able to go outside and run around the block for 4 hours, right? You can't really look at that. You're feeding your soul, so the worth is there. It's a service, if you will. It's not part of the ROI, all right? So on money, you want to treat it as a product that we're talking more of investment side. So when you invest into yourself, you will get that back in the future, is even knowing or not knowing what works or doesn't work or what does work. And leverage. One of the other factors in most of these systems is leverage, because you may not be able to trade the Forex market with zero leverage. In the short term, there's not very much leverage needed, especially trading on the TNT. You go to Nadex, you have to have $1,000 in there to trade, or however much that you need. If you buy a contract for $75 worth of risk, you need to have that $75 in, or nobody's loaning you any money to put that 75 in. That 75 doesn't really turn into 150 when you trade with it. It's still just your $75. So that leverage is zero, right? Now, when you get into Forex trading, you're going to have some leverages. The broker's going to loan you money or what have you, and there's prices to pay for all that stuff. But for the leverage, what I'm referring to in this case is that the overall amount of money that you have being leveraged for your future, and how much you're going to need to be able to do that with, and at what level that's going to be for that leverage, okay? And the factor of short, medium, or long term, okay? Now, medium-term yield. Same thing as with the short-term yield, but this one, instead of about 30 to 60 days, should be yielding between 6 months and a year. Somewhere in that factor is a good base. Now, again, it all has to depend upon how much money you start with, and I'll talk about here that in the final statements. But that returning level for your reoccurring monthly income should take about 6 months to a year to obtain, especially at the levels that you're looking at. So if you're starting with 10K, you probably go, pretty far, pretty quickly, but it may only take 3 months. But the more money you start with, the more money that you may seem risky at times. So I put this in here so you could actually have overlap. And every one of these systems has a little bit of overlap. Now, in this particular medium term side, you're trading stocks, right? So this is a little bit you're going to hold. You're not, if you are doing day trading with stocks, you could do that. But this is longer term stocks. This is like buying Google or buying Amazon and getting your 1 or 2%. Could you make your $6,000 a month with that? Yes, but you need a lot more money to invest. Options are a little bit more risky, but you can make a decent money over a period of time holding the options for longer, trading in and out, watching the values return, or buying a sell on it. There's a lot of that process that's there. Now, you should be able to get a solid yield of about 10 to 18% per month if you're trading, even at the lower and mid-side levels. You should be able to get something from that effect trading with these variables. The Forex long-term monthlies, trading on a monthly ticket, is pretty lucrative because you can spot these really long trends that you can get on with. Now, you can't pull that money out of it because you'd have to stop the trade. So this is more of a long, medium-term side of 6 months to a year. And our DexBot system, which does do daily returns, builds up to that point. Within about six months to a year, you could be making that kind of money, but you're consistently accumulating that process, and that accumulation builds an income over that 6 months to a year. And right around the year mark, you can start drawing off that money that you're looking at between $4,000 to $6,000 a month coming every month. And then that's where it stalls out, where you just allow that money to build and grow. Now, the long-term system here, and again with that same theme, this should take between 1 and 5 years. You're starting with a lot more money, but the yield, the monthly yield, is a lot less. Between 3 and 5%, it should be, but it's really super safe, right? It has little to no chance of it failing overall. It's going to constantly grow. You may have hiccups of a day or 2 weeks or a week, but you'll never have a losing month. Those particular things. In this case, mutual funds over the year should be able to yield out something pretty good. You may have a losing or a down year for the mutual funds, but you'll make it back the next, or it really depends. But certificates of deposit, people say that CDs are the thing of the past, and they could still yield out about 4 or 5% a year. Most of these should be yielding between 4 to 12%, even 30% a year. So that's usually about 3.5 to 4% a month. Our StepBot copier service yields out about 3.5% a month average, and will do so over the next 5 years easy. And that's right around that 5-6 year, maybe 2.5 year mark. You could start looking at, all right, this is going to yield my $6,000 to $7,000. Some final thoughts on the starting capital of each. If you start any one of these systems between 1 and 2K, especially in the very short-term stuff, 1 and 2K, medium size, you're going to want between 2.5 to 5K. And of course, long-term, you're going to want, between 10 and 20K to start. In this solution, you have to take your time. You have to go slow. We do this thing called an incremental crawl with the TNT system. Very powerful, but slow is smooth and smooth is fast. This is a statement I used to make in the military all the time, and I've heard 1,000 times. And some people laugh at it, how slow, smooth. Well, when you take your time, you slow it down. You don't go slow. You think about the movements that you're doing, and you slow yourself down to where if you were to go at full speed, you'd run right into it. So maybe not full speed, but you take your time, you do it methodical, and you get the job done. I could show you thousands of incidences of that same process happening every single day, with the understanding that if I use some just common sense I take my time, I make my decisions, I'm not irrational, I will be very successful. Final words to live by. The idea that you're going to hear this term a lot, and you've probably already heard it a lot if you watched any of my videos, consistency plus volume equals goal. A lot of people say, well, how do I find that consistency? Well, it's finding the patience and discipline to be able to provide to that. Whether or not you have found the solution out there already, or if you've heard the hype, you still need to use patience and discipline to prove the consistency. Most of you will jump in, oh, that guy said it was going to yield out about 100% a month. Well, if you went all in at it, then you didn't use patience. You didn't really use the discipline to trade it and figure it out. Maybe you started in live when you should have started in demo to learn it. That patience and discipline will yield you the consistency. Patience is waiting for the right thing to happen to use the discipline to make the trade or make the process happen to get to the consistency. So P plus D equals consistency, and consistency plus volume equals your goal. Now, coming up, you're going to go through the rest of the lessons, and you're going to get an even better breakdown of each one of these yield terms. And then later on, we're going to show you, and I won't show you off in the future lessons. I've given you an idea of mutual funds or day trading or those kind of things without a real specific breakdown of each, because I really don't believe in them. I eat where I work, which means that I'm a cook in my own restaurant who takes pride in eating his own food. So the idea that I also trade what we're talking about and I make money what we're talking about, and I have these three yields happening for me should say volumes. Also, the people that we have in our company who are starting this process and starting this mentality also use these solutions as well. So take that in consideration as you go through the rest of the lessons. If you're watching this video on YouTube and you haven't joined us yet at DexFX Markets, please do so now. Get into the free side, see who we are, but don't hesitate. These systems, what we have created, are very powerful. The TNT strategy, the DexBot, and the StepBot all together can yield this process for you, and over a period of time can be very lucrative for your bottom line as well as for your portfolio. I hope you take some time to really do this and make it happen, because I would really enjoy talking to you, and especially with the Dex Atomic, we'll help walk you through that entire process. Our series of what we do next is coming up, and if you're inside the system, please enjoy. I'm Max Farrow, this is DexFXMarkets.com, and this is the Dex Atomic. We'll see you next time, and as always, trade well.